Now, who did it?
Hanson. Hanson. Great job in it.
Yeah. And who asked to get this done? Was it the Hillies?
Aye. About 30,000 euros.
Yeah.
30,000 euros.
Just to get this paved.
Well, they contribute a bit though.
Well, the Hillies had to contribute.
And we had everyone here.
And you did too.
Then,
How much did you have to chip in?
about 500 euros.
Yeah, well, that's not bad overall. Does this go all the way back to the law? No.
No, but there's a hell of it. Alright. What do you know? They made a good job of it. Made a good job of it.
Was it in bad shape?
No. No.
There's the old McGraw house.
That's too old, man. What are you talking about? That's as good as the country road, man. Panther, my man.
This is like the M1 here in Donegal.
You know where it's Panther. On your day. We're out at the Tamboree, John was about here. We're about that like there about a month ago.
So you probably couldn't get back when they were doing this, could you?
No, only spent a couple of days or so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have much today. I wouldn't have much here that day.
So you keep the gates open now.
No gate cutters anymore.
Why is that? You're not worried about the cattle or anything coming down it?
No, it's the all fenced along the side of the lane. All fenced.
Because I remember you had to go through 2 or 3 gates.
Not for them times.
You were never in and out of the car full time.
Alright. Them bushes wasn't there the last time, Brother Road. Travers here going to renovate this house now.
Now, which Travers?
And it's our married boys that have this big houses here. See an order company they're going to have it on the renovation.
Did they get any grants for that?
Oh, I want to make it a holiday home. Big motors up there are planning renovation. So the next day you buy, you can make stairs, coffee makers about there. On your way, shove it in. On your way, shove it in.
Yeah, one gate anyway.
Oh, I didn't know.
This is Loch McGee. The M1 has turned into a dirt road.
Yeah, that's right. I had to make the edge.
There's a mist up on the mountain there, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Alright.
Well, 'cause- 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 'cause-
day.
And you come back here every day?
I do for now for 2 or 3 weeks to the ram right here.
Uh-huh.
Couple of years, 30 or 40 years here.
And what do you think, they're going to be lambing?
Eh?
Are they going to be lambing or not? That's in the spring.
No, but in case they wouldn't gather up for the ram,
Right.
throw them a wee dog and nut in case they gathered up. Ram with my son, he didn't gather up. So after that, my mother coming up and they're overstepped.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. We didn't even know about it to go to the Wakefield funeral.
You were married?
No. And he lost a lot of friends on September 11th. He lost a lot of friends, firemen friends on September 11th. No, no. Yeah, it's a shame.
Tyrone.
Thank you.
Boys, that's Tyrone. Why they wouldn't be dead here 2 hours and I'd know about them. Communications. What not that way. Well, forget network communication.
Yeah, without cell phones. And who's doing the landscaping and everything here now in the graveyard?
We gather up. Try to do
Huh?
You know, we got a very read.
There was a reed in the cross there last night.
You over got a very
But wasn't it? There was a big crowd at it that day, wasn't it?
Wait, people. Sure. Some party belongs to know.
Right. This is some sort of socialist party, yeah.
Something like that. I think that party. Down with the race. I know where's other headstone.
Yeah.
Would you believe that? Read. She was married once in the son of Cattle Golden.
That's right, yeah. Because that was in the national newspaper. She died up North Donegal, right?
Derek. Supposed to be drowned. I don't know what happened. Maybe Catherine Reid. 53. Socialist Republican. Teacher. Poet. She followed. Followed. Curta. The search of the miraculous. He'd be with the Irish warriors in heaven. What do you mean by? She followed. She heard the search of Mikey's grave. No draft Mike Tyson.
When did he die?
We'll soon know now.
96, yeah.
Died in 96.
From Grouse Lodge. And where's your mother's now?
Down there, back at the wee house. There's an old headstone. 1883.
Yeah.
Boy. That's a long time ago. Graph too. What was that turning? 83.
This is the one here, Jimmy.
Yep. Western Australia.
Jeez, you went a long way from here.
Ah, sure, you're so weird off.
for danger, John.
Yeah, what, do you see a red light?
I do.
Oh, okay, it's recording now. I just want to say we're on the Bow Island. Is this officially the Bow Island?
This is the last town land, got its name, Port Node, down to the Bow Island.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to start back from your grandparents. Were there any connections between our family and your family with your grandparents?
My grandparents would have been your mother's grandparents too. Jimmy Hawhey and Catherine McGrath was his wife before she got married, and they were neighbours.
In what area?
Lettercran.
Right. Back by Loughnagig? Back that far?
Well, you know the place along the road where Tommy has, that's where Jimmy Hawhey lived there. And his neighbour was just up behind the hill, Catherine Hawhey. And that's your mother's grandfather and granny would the same as mine, like.
But then how did my mother and everyone end up back there by Loughnagig?
She married your grandfather then, John Monaghan, back.
No, who married John Monaghan?
Mary Jane was your granny.
Right, my grandmother.
Your mommy's mother married John Monaghan up at Loughnagig.
So that's where he was from, the Monaghan's who were living back there.
He was there, but they come from, the breed of the Monaghans come from a place called Bushel outside Caligo. His father, Thomas Monaghan, married into it. I think his wife was the name of Mooney or some name like that.
Right.
Thomas Monaghan came from Bushel, and he married your great granny.
Yeah, well, my great grandmother.
Great grandmother. That's right.
And is that where they raised them? My mother.
That's where they were raised.
But how did they end up so far back there? I mean, it was away from everything. Or was there any main roads leading to anywhere back there?
Well,
it just seems so isolated.
You've heard the plantation of Ulster.
Yeah.
A lot of Catholics was sent. The saying goes to the hell of Connacht, and if you notice, they all finished up in the mountain, in the poor areas. You know.
And then you have all the Protestants were living down by the road.
Protestants living all in the good lands, any good land in Donegal or Tyrone. Yes, we get the Protestants, you know.
And then how did they make a living back there? I mean, with the big families.
It had been a struggle making a living. They just they didn't buy much. They grew their own potatoes and grew their own oats and took the oats to the mill to get it, what they call, crushed into oatmeal, and they just lived so simple. They had no electricity bills, or they had no telephone and no nothing. They just lived on oatmeal porridge and potatoes, and they had their own cows for milk. That would have been the main diet.
And they would never bother fishing Loughnagig?
They wouldn't. They made it. They wouldn't have fished very much now. You know,
that always seems strange that they had a famine and they were an island and because of the potato crop.
That's where they died, because they were just depending on the potatoes.
Yeah.
And when the potatoes died with the blight, that was them. That no other, not like nowadays, that no other resource to turn to.
Then I remember Packy John was telling me that there's a famine grave in Lettercran.
There's a famine grave in Lettercran, surely.
And what's the story behind that?
The records of some of them places wouldn't be too well kept because the people wasn't too well schooled either. A lot of them. They made it, the smartest person in the parish would have been the priest and the schoolmaster.
Right.
And a lot of those have been literate. You know, they wouldn't have enough put down in writing.
Right.
And they'd be unmarked places. You know.
And then how many were in the famine grave there in Lettercran?
Oh, probably there could be hundreds in it.
Yeah.
You know.
That many died in that area.
That many died, and then there was other plagues too. Like there was a lot of people died with diseases too. That there were no medicines, till helped them along. You know.
And where would the people living back at Loughnagig, how would they go anywhere at night or do anything? Did they go into towns? Because it seems pretty far removed from everywhere.
They wouldn't have went to town too often. There'd have been grocery, in later years there'd been grocery vans through out through the country, and there'd have been once a week that they went for their groceries.
Yeah.
You know.
And then there's one tragic story about that loch there, where there's 2 children died.
That'd be my uncle and aunt.
Your uncle and
aunt drowned in 1913 at Lough Fingerin.
Oh, that's further back.
That's farther back.
And what happened there?
It appears there was a younger boy wandered into the water. I never heard the true story because my mother or your granny didn't like talking about it, but I heard there was a younger boy, Tommy. He was a wee fella and wandered into the water, and one of the sisters went in to save him, and then the brother, he went in, he could swim, and helped to save the sister, and they two got drowned, and my mother saved Tommy, the wee boy. She was there.
Someone
too.
was telling me they had something, he was going in to save a cow that went into it.
Well, they said that. They might have been driving cattle all right, but it was that saddest story. We never really got the true story on it.
And where were they buried?
They were buried at the Crown, in the Haughey plot.
Right.
There. It's just, it's not well marked, because I wanted Tommy Monaghan, you know, your Uncle Tommy, to get it marked before. If they don't mark it, Tommy and Jimmy, it'll be lost forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you're right there.
You know what I mean? But there'll be a generation of Harveys married there. There'll have been cousins like farther back too. They'll be all in the same area. You know, there was Tommy Haughey had a shop just right beside my Uncle Tommy. And he would have been probably a second cousin. That name's gone forever. And the Haughey breed, they came from a place called Clady, down in Donegal.
Right.
That's down in Donegal as you go down to Derry, you know, Clady.
Yeah. We have a picture in the house in front of a home back there with one person wearing an eye patch. They told me he was in World War One.
That's an uncle of Mommy's, Tom Monaghan.
Yeah.
He was in World War One. He's buried in Isle of Man.
On the Isle of Man?
Jimmy knows all about it because he was over at he used to go over to see him, and he went over when he was dead, seen him buried.
And what was the eye patch?
The eye patch, a shell took the part of the nose, an eye and all with it.
And was it the Battle of the Somme?
It was that bad, he never could get in a glass eye, it was that much of it gone.
Yeah.
The part of the face was gone, just he wore a patch over.
So he would have been in the British Army?
He was in the British, he was in the Irish Guards in the British Army.
And was he conscripted to go to that British Army?
He was working in England or Scotland, and they were conscripted. They were lifted, they had to go when they were working over there. I knew him, I often seen him when he used to be home.
Right.
But that's where he's buried, in Isle of Man.
And did he ever talk about it?
He probably might have talked about not that much either. Funny to say, a lot of ex-soldiers had got injured. You wouldn't get very much out of them, but the war.
Yeah.
Probably seen so many horrors in the battlefield that they didn't talk much about it. Probably did to your grandfather or to your granny.
But they were telling me it was the Battle of the Somme, which was the big battle that he lost the eye in. Is that possible, the Battle of the Somme?
I'm not sure about that now, because it was the Ulster Rifles, so then the Skilled Fusiliers. They were mostly the Protestant end of it was set to the Battle of the Somme. Britain done it dirty on the Protestants. They were all on the home guard here, and when the war started, you sent them out there. They were cannon fodder, just you know, the Battle of the Somme. It wasn't the Irish Guard. It was mostly there'd been more Catholics than Irish Guards. Yeah. And there would have been others would have been the Enniskillen Fusiliers or the Ulster Rifles or something like that they called them. Mostly at the Battle of the Somme, and nearly all Ulster Protestant was killed at the Battle of the Somme.
Yeah. That's why it's so heavily commemorated here.
Sure. That's why there was more. There might have been some Catholics, but the majority was Protestant at the Battle of the Somme. And they were fond of the uniform, but because when the war, First World War started, Britain just treated them just like the way they treat any soldiers, or any country treats any soldiers. Send them for cannon fodder. Just.
Yeah, yeah. And then, well, you're saying 1913, then he was over there in 1916. What effect did the revolution in Dublin and everything have in that area, I mean, being so isolated? So I often heard there was a Tom McGrath there, where Pat John's father was in the IRA at that time.
It would have been sore in the Irishmen and the Irish Guards when 1916 started here. It would have been rough on them, but what could they do? Only they couldn't desert the British Army when they were in the war, really, you know.
Yeah.
They had to stay where they were. If they'd been shot, if they'd deserted too.
And was there much activity, Republican activity around Pettigo?
There would have been. I heard my mother saying they lived on the border with Fermanagh, and at that time the B-men was started up in the north, the B specials.
Yeah.
They would have started firing shots over into the state side, you know. They used to have to leave at night because you could have got shot even with a stray bullet or anything, you know. That's when the border was set up, you know, in 1922.
Did any people feel better? I remember I was talking to Jimmy Baxter and he was talking about the IRA in Tyrone and Fermanagh were fighting as much as anybody else. And then when the treaty came down, the line was drawn right around their house.
Surely.
And they said, listen, this is what we fought for. We
There
ended
had been a
up
lot of them not for the treaty.
Yeah,
They were let down.
Yeah, because it was drawn around
See,
them.
when David Eyre went for the treaty, that was a letdown on the Ulster people.
Yeah.
You know, just like now, nearly. You know.
Wow. That's good.
You know.
And then how did...
They'd have been better went for the whole hog.
right, or stay under British rule and try for another day.
They'd have nearly been better under British rule because they'd have got it to the ballot box anyway, probably.
Eventually, right.
Eventually, I suppose.
Although they did vote in the ballot box, they were the majority, and that's why they drew the line.
Surely.
I mean,
that's right, they were the majority across the 26 counties.
well, the 32 counties they still.
Well, they didn't want to give up the 3 Ulster counties.
Right.
That's Cavan, Monaghan, and
Donegal.
See, there's 9 counties in Ulster, and only they retained 6. The British. They didn't like giving up Donegal because it was a good county, like good land, and Monaghan and Cavan, 2 good counties too. They wanted to hold on, naturally enough, to them 3 counties, but they had to relinquish them. You see.
So then, where were you born and raised?
Oh, I was born and raised just down the road there, down where the farm is.
So was it your mother came over to this area?
My mother married my father. She came from Lettercran to my
So she would have been an aunt of mine.
She was not to your mother's.
Right, would have been a great aunt of mine.
Great aunt, aye.
Yeah, it was my grandmother's sister.
That's right, your grandmother's sister, aye.
And then she married over to this side.
She married John Gallagher. That's right. They married 3 Johns. Your granny married John Monaghan, and there was another aunt, Ellen Hawley married John Collins down in Cray. That's in Ahiarn parish.
Yeah. And then there was always big immigration from that area. How was it that you never immigrated? Were there people in your family that immigrated?
My father immigrated to America in 1925, but then he came back in 1830 because his father was an old man, and he had a sister looking after him, and she was going to get married, so he didn't want to come. He wouldn't have came home, and his father was an old man.
But the Depression started in the States too.
But he done well in the Depression, and he met somebody from County Fermanagh. He got a job, and there were soup kitchens at the time. They were rowing to get soup in New York at that time.
So he was in New York.
He was in New York in the Depression.
What part?
In Brooklyn. 39.
29.
39 Flatbush Avenue.
Oh, that's the address. Yes. Yeah.
He was in. He went in 25, and he came back in 1830, and he wouldn't have come back at all. Only his father was in his late 70s, you know.
And then, how devastating was the immigration? It just seems we were speaking about people there before. You talking about that went down to Australia.
There was people went to Australia too. There wasn't so many Catholics went to Australia. More Catholics went to the States because that more touch, more people out there, contact. You know.
And that would have been because of the famine of all the ones that went out.
But there was transported to Australia too,
Yeah.
like Ned Kelly's breed.
Mm-hmm.
They were sent out. You'd have been transported to Australia for stealing a calf, you know.
Yeah.
Anything at all. The British sent out on the transport ships. And some of them never got the length of died aboard the ships
Yeah.
too.
It was a long journey.
Just imagine the length of time it would take for a ship to get to Australia, you know.
Yeah. Well, I see in my mother's family how the other two sisters went to England.
That's
and then
right.
she came to the States.
That's right,
so- And then Tommy went to the States. I mean,
Tommy
it
went to the
has to be fairly devastating raising a family.
Tommy and your Uncle Harry went out to your mother and father.
Yeah, I remember that.
They sailed from Cove
Uh-huh.
in Cork. Wasn't much word about flying that time.
No, it wouldn't.
When the time they went away.
Well, my father was telling me he went to Glasgow too for
I
a spell.
it surely. But your father kept in touch with your mother then, you know, when they met, and he was in America and come home to get married. I mean,
Right.
that's the time they got married.
Well, he got married in Pettigo.
He got married in Pettigo. That's
Yeah.
right. Got married in Pettigo.
Mm.
That's right.
And then it was like left to Jimmy to do the farm as the youngest in the family.
That's right. Jimmy carried on out of the Donegal gig, and then they bought that place now where Jimmy has the houses.
Mhm.
Back a good many years ago. And Jimmy built a new house on it.
Yeah.
That place.
And do you think a lot of families, the ones that were left behind, were sort of upset that people were going on and making new lives for themselves, and they were really struggling?
Sometimes they were happy, the ones left behind too, to carry on because there was money sent home.
Yeah, and clothes, because I remember my
That
mother
has been
doing that.
happening for centuries. The Irish that went to America sent money home,
Mhm.
and it was,
A big
it was
help.
very, very useful. Like
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been like money now, but still now that it had been good. With the times, the money had as good a value that time as it has now.
Yeah.
You know, everything's so expensive now. You know, a dollar would have been stretched as it was 20 times.
Yeah.
That time it would now. You know.
Mhm. There's big changes now. I mean, you don't get the immigration like you used to get.
No, there's people that came home from America to Ireland.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't be the same, the immigration.
And now, what are you?
People,
Yeah.
people go now, we just go for the summertime, just
Mm.
you know, just to see around them.
Yeah.
You know,
And what were your connections now with Colorado?
my connections with Colorado was Eileen's brother, Packy. He's in Denver, Colorado, and he went to New York first too to an uncle. And then he stayed there certainly at the time, and he was in the army too, he was in the military police, and he finished up then, when he came off the military police, he finished up in Colorado then, married down there in Denver, and he's been there since, in that area, you know.
And then, what was the connection now we have with Australia, with Sydney?
In Sydney, there was a Dennis McGrath, would have been a brother of my grannies and your great grannies.
Uh-huh.
Went, I suppose, 150 years ago or more to Australia, and that's his
Grandkids, maybe? Look
Yes.
up let it
his
come.
granddaughter now just came back, looking for searching for her roots.
And she found the connections. And
She found the connection, but it wasn't so easy in the start.
Mm-hmm.
She asked Pat John McGrath. She had a wee photograph of her grandfather with her, and Pat John seen a resemblance. I think he'd seen some resemblance of me and this Dennis McGrath,
Yeah.
and she established a connection then.
Mm-hmm.
But she hadn't much to go on in the start, you know, when he saw the photograph. She'd have never been over in these islands only for having a son, came to work in England.
Mm.
She thought when she was that lad she'd come on, and she knew something. Her grandmother was McGrath as well. They are called the Red McGraths, but she can't make no connection there.
Yeah.
Her granny and grandfather both was McGrath. They were called the Red McGraths. Supposed to be a brother of her granny's was Red Mick or something they called him. But she can't establish no, they must be dead out or something.
Right, they died out. Yeah. So are there any more family stories between the Monaghans and the Gallaghers and the Hahys that we should get down? Just a tough way of living, a tough existence.
Aye, that's right. A tough way of living. And they were happy, you know, because they didn't know.
Yeah.
Didn't know any better at that time. They lived simple lives, you know. It wouldn't have been the same rat race as the people's in now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And how big a part did religion play with all of that?
It would have played a big part that time, because, as I say, the parish priest would have been he'd have been the most intellectual person in the parish.
Right.
And any paperwork that had to be done, it would have been the schoolmaster or the parish priest would have done it for them.
And they would have settled disputes between families.
They would have tried to settle disputes between families. They would, in a diplomatic way, you know. But funny to say, the Haughey family, they, as far as I know them, they were fairly well learned,
Right.
you know.
And how did that come about?
Because I think sometimes it can bend people to be easy taught too, you know. Because the schools was established again in their time. Way before that, there was only the head schools. And,
Toward at the side of the roads.
because it was good enough, the British had a good enough method. There was a method and a madness of the Irish had no learning, they wouldn't do any harm, they wouldn't get nowhere. So the Irish wasn't, it was again the law to learn.
Right, right.
They did that with in other countries too, the British.
Yeah, oh, that's another thing. Did anybody speak Irish living in that area?
Not to my knowing. The only Irish was when the state was set up, the schools in the state was set up, to start teaching Irish in the schools. But the only areas in Donegal would have been talking Irish would have been the Donegal Gaelta.
Right.
You know.
But there must have been some stage where they spoke nothing but Irish in the area until
There would have been, because there were a lot of Irish words yet. You know, from the Gaelic times. Still, there'd be a lot of words. Still.
But that was practically wiped out too, between no education and not
lack of
teaching.
education and lack of, you know, that was the British. There was a method and a madness, as I say again.
Yeah.
Not that the people learn, you know.
Well, what do you think? That's about it? We wrapped up a couple of 100 years.
I'm sure they are.
Let's just see.
There may be someone else I think about, you know. But
Yeah, well, you do. I'm here.